Hi everyone. In this session, we are going to consider the new subject, that is economics. Demand analysis is the important part in this 12th standard, and that we are going to see in this particular section. Now again, what is our agenda for this session? Our agenda is introduction. Next, what is demand? What is demand schedule, types of demand, law of demand, variation in demand, and changes in demand. Demand, whenever we are going to consider in ordinary language, demand means it is desire. Desire means an urge to have something. But in economics, demand means a desire which is backed by willingness and ability to pay. I repeat, in economics, demand means a desire which is backed by willingness and ability to pay. That's why we can say here, that is demand is equal to desire plus willingness to purchase and ability to pay. It is defined by Benham. Demand, according to Benham, it is defined the demand for anything at a given price, which is most important, at a given price is the amount of it which will be bought per unit of time at that particular price. Whenever we are going to buy a commodity at a given price, there is a desire to buy that particular commodity. Our ability to pay is there at a particular price, and willingness must be there to pay for that particular commodity. If a person want to buy furniture, what you want to buy? Furniture. Whenever you want to buy a furniture means there is a what? Desire is there, isn't it? Is it having the willingness to pay? Yeah, he is willing to pay for that particular furniture. Is it ability to pay? Now there are different prices are there for the furniture. Which furniture he can afford according to his pocket? He has to consider, that is his ability to pay. Yes, his ability to pay is also then only it will be goes for the demand. And therefore demand is nothing but desire plus willingness to purchase and ability to pay. That is most important. Demand is what? It is a, keep in mind always, relative term. Demand is relative term, or we can say it is a relative concept. Relative concept. Demand is essentially expressed with reference to, there are two important factors, that is time and price. What is this time and price is most important? According to that, we are going to pay the amount and we are going to demand that particular. During the rainy season, we are going to demand umbrellas, raincoat. That is the time period is there. Then in that case, whatever the price is there, we are going to buy that particular commodity, umbrella, raincoat, to satisfy our particular need. Whereas in case of winter, there is a demand for sweaters. More and more we are going to pay. That is, our time is winter and we are going to pay for that during that winter season. The woolen cloths, the price of the woolen cloths, even though it is high, we are going to pay. And therefore, we can say the demand is expressed with reference to time and their prices. Am I right? Whereas next part is here, that is your demand schedule. What is demand schedule? Demand schedule is nothing but it is a tabular representation of the functional relationship between price and quantity demanded. Price and quantity demanded for a particular commodity. I repeat, demand schedule is a tabular representation, tabular, that is showing by not words but by figures, of the functional relationship between price and quantity demanded for a particular commodity. There are two types of the, we can say, demand schedules are there, that is individual demand schedule and market demand schedule. Now, what is individual demand schedule and what is market demand schedule? That we'll have to consider. Individual customer, when we are going to consider, for an individual customer is going to buy a commodity for his own, that is individual demand schedule. We are going to consider the demand of a one person, then it is called individual demand schedule. Now here, whenever the price 10 is there of a commodity X. Now keep in mind, in a demand schedule, we have taken two columns, price of a commodity X and quantity demanded of commodity X. That is by one person. Whenever the price is 10, the quantity demanded is only 1. When the price reduces from 10 to 8, we are going to demand more of a commodity, that is from 1 to 2. When it again reduces from 8 to 6, he is going to increase his demand by 2 to 3. And so on. By 4 is going to demand 4. By going to reducing by 2 up to 2 is going to increase demand by 5. It means that what the individual demand schedule says, that is the commodity, when the price of the commodity comes down, it reduces. It is what demand automatically increases. Lesser the price, more the demand, and more the price, lesser will be the demand of a particular commodity. Now, after this individual demand schedule, we'll have to consider individual demand curve. When we plot all this tabular or schedule on a graph paper, we are going to receive the individual demand curve. On a graph paper or on a paper, we are going to take x-axis horizontally and vertically it is a y-axis. Here it is your 0 is there. On a y-axis we are denoting price of a commodity X in what rupees, whereas on x-axis we are writing quantity demanded in kilograms, am I right, of commodity X. Now price in the as per the schedule we are having 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Whereas commodities demanded are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 I have taken. Whenever there is a price 10 is there, if you can see the schedule, price 10 is there, your demand is only 1. When price reduces from 10 to 8, demand increases up to the 2. We are perpendicular on x-axis. Similarly, when price reduces from 8 to 6, demand increases from 2 to 3 and so on. When we can plot these points and when we can have the graph, it is called DD is the demand curve which is sloping downward. That is called DD curve slopes downward from left to right, indicating an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. It is nothing but what downward sloping demand curve from left to right indicate inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. This is individual demand curve. Now, what is the market demand schedule? Whenever we are going to consider for only one customer, it is called individual demand schedule. Whenever we are going to consider more than one customer, it is called market demand schedule. For one person, it is individual, and more than it is market demand schedule. In our example, we are going to take the price of commodity X in rupees, then quantity of X demanded by three consumers, consumer A, consumer B, and consumer C is there. And therefore, whatever we are getting is called total market demand by combination addition of consumer A, consumer B, consumer C. When the price 10 is there, consumer A is going to demand 5 of the commodity X, whereas consumer B is going to demand 10 and consumer C is going to demand 15. If we can take the addition 5 plus 10 plus 15, total comes 30. Means whenever the price 10 is there, your total market demand is 30, isn't it? When price comes from 10 to here 8, consumer A is going to demand more of it. The first he was demanding 5, now he's going to demand 10. Demand increases 10 to 15 and here 15 to 20. We can add all these things, we will getting the 45 as a market demand. Another, when price goes down from 8 to 6, demand increases, consumer A 15, consumer B 20, and consumer C 25, total comes 60, and so on. It means that here again the rule applied is that when the price of a commodity comes down, reduces demand for the said commodity, either it may be a market demand or individual demand, demand for the commodity is going to be increased one by one. Now, after considering the market demand schedule, when we can plot this schedule on a graph paper, we are going to receive a market demand curve. What is the market demand curve? Again here, we are taking an x-axis quantity demanded of commodity X in kgs. This is the x-axis horizontal and y-axis is the vertical axis. This is O. Price is given on the y-axis in the rupees. Prices as per the schedule 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, whereas commodity demanded as per the your schedule. Therefore here whenever the price 10 is there, you can see here price 10, the commodity demanded is 30. We are here perpendicular on this, and according to we will getting a downward sloping demand curve just like as a individual demand curve. The market demand curve is also indicate an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. Market demand is total demand for a commodity from all the consumers at a given price during a given period of time. Here we have considered the two aspects, that is what is the individual demand and what is the market demand. Now next part is here, that is what is the types of demand. Types of demand, that is mainly divided into the five types: direct demand, indirect demand, complementary or joint demand, composite demand, and competitive demand. Now, direct demand, it is what? It satisfies wants directly. It satisfies directly. For example, we can have cloth. We are using the cloth directly. For example, sugar. We are eating the sugar. Therefore, it is what? Direct demand. Whatever the we are making the direct consumption, that is called your direct demand. What is the indirect demand? Indirect demand is also called as derived demand. It is also known as what? Derived demand. Now, what do you mean by derived demand? That is, it is demand for production purpose. That is, it is a demand for producers' goods. We can say it is a demand for producers' goods. Whenever we are having the factors of production, how many factors are there? There are four factors of production. Four factors of production comes under this your indirect demand. What are the four factors? Land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Now, whenever we are going to demand a land, it is not directly consumed. We are getting the benefit of the land. Then we are going to demand a labor. We are getting the labor, not consumption, but whatever the services rendered by the labor is to be considered. Land, labor, capital. Capital means what? Money, furniture, whatever is bought by the businessman in the business, that we are going to not directly consume, but we are taking the use of it. It means that, and the entrepreneurship, whatever the skill, knowledge, etc. is there of that particular person that he introduces, that his entrepreneurship is there and he earns. And that is factors of production are there, and these all comes under indirect demand, or we can say it is derived demand. Now, what is the complementary and joint demand? When two or more goods demanded jointly, it is called joint demand or complementary demand. We can say here car and what? Fuel. Car and petrol. We can say it is a joint demand. Whenever we are going to demand jointly, it is called as a joint demand. Then what is a composite demand? Demand for commodity. Demand for commodity put to several uses. What is that? Several uses. We are only demanding one commodity, but it is used for several purposes. For example, electricity. What is electricity? That you know it very well. Electricity is used for what? For your home appliances, washing machine, TV, mixer, refrigerator, etc. Means your demand is only one electricity, but you are going to use it is for several purposes. Nowadays, car, two-wheeler also there. For recharging purpose, we need electricity that is called as a composite demand. Whereas competitive demand, this demand means it is a substitute for each other. This composite demand is a what? Substitute for each other. What do you mean by substitute? That is, if it is not available, we are going to eat, we can drink another. For example, tea. And what is another? It is coffee. Tea and coffee is a competitive demand because tea or coffee or this is called a types of demand. Now, what are the determinants of demand? Determinants means the factors on which the demand is going to be depend upon. First one is price is there. This is the most important factor. Everybody is going to look after the price of a commodity. First of all, very well. If the price is lower side, then only it is buy. If the more price is there, then generally people avoid to buy the commodity. I will go in case of law of demand regarding the price in detail. Then income of a person is also there. If a person is having income, then only he can demand for the different commodities. And if the income is less, even though there is a desire, even there is a willingness to pay, but not availability of funds, he cannot demand that particular commodity. Therefore, along with the price, your income also plays a vital role. Whereas prices of substitute of goods, prices of substitute of goods. It means that whenever we are going to see the prices substitute goods, if the substitute goods are available at a lesser price, then automatically people will move to that commodity than that of original one. That is another determinant of demand. Demand is going to depend on that. Price of complementary goods. That is also most important. Price of complementary goods, price of substitute of goods. That is important. And nature of product, size of population. When more population is there, more is the demand for the commodity. Lesser population is there, lesser demand for the commodity. They also depend upon the population, taste, habits, and fashions of the people. If the taste is different, fashion differs, automatically fashion changes, your demand for the commodity is going to be changed. As you know it very well, the fashion is always going to change, and according to the people are going to demand that commodity. Taste changes, people are going to demand that commodity. Secondly, sex ratio is also most important. If more the females are there, the more demand for the female products are there than that of the male and vice versa. Whereas the advertisement is also an important, we can say the determinant of demand because advertisement hampers the minds of the people and the people are going to change their product from one product to another product and can buy that another product. It means that the demand of the original product will reduce and demand of that another product will be going to be increase. It means that such type of determinants are there for our demand, isn't it? I have explained a little bit about the determinants, about the demand. Now we are going to take the part of the law of demand. What is the law of demand? In a case of law of demand, in a 12th standard, there are three laws are important for our study purpose. One is law of demand, another is law of diminishing marginal utility, and next law of supply. Now here we are going to consider what is your law of demand. Whenever we are going to consider the law of demand, always keep in mind, first, any kind of the law statement, we'll have to consider what is the statement, then what is schedule, then what is the graph, what is the assumption, what are the assumptions are there, and what are the exceptions of that particular law that is demand, supply, whatever may be the case. While considering the demand, we can say the statement. The statement of the law it gives by the statement of the law is given by Professor Alfred Marshall in his book that is Principles of Economics, which was published in the year 1890. In his book, the law explains the financial relationship between price and quantity demanded. It explains the relationship between price and quantity demanded. Now, what is statement? According to Professor Alfred Marshall, other things being equal, higher the price of a commodity, smaller is the quantity demanded, and lower the price of a commodity, larger is the quantity demanded. Price of a commodity and quantity of a commodity. Other things being equal, that is most important. Other things being equal means whatever the determinants we have seen, in that one of the determinant is price, means that determinant is going to be constant. On that basis we are going to consider, but the other determinants, whatever is there, other than that of price, that are going to be constant, that cannot be changed. Other things being equal, higher the price, smaller is the quantity demanded, smaller is the price, higher the quantity will be demanded. That was told by Professor Alfred Marshall in his books of Principles of Economics in the year 1890. That is called as a statement of the law of demand. What he says, it is represented in this manner. dx, d stands for demand, x stands for commodity, x is equal to f into bracket x. That is where what we can say, d stands for demand for a commodity, x stands for your commodity, f is a functional relationship, and here px is stands for price of a commodity. Therefore, what we can say, dx is equal to f into bracket px. It means that demand of a commodity X is equal to functional relationship of price of commodity X. It is given. Now we are going to consider schedule and graph first. What is the schedule of the law of demand? As you know it very well, schedule means what? Tabular representation of the your data. We have seen in the law of demand, statement of the law of demand we have considered. Now we want to see the demand schedule. What is the demand schedule? We should divide into two parts. First one is price of a commodity X and another is quantity demanded of commodity X in kilogram. It is represented in rupees. Whenever there is a 50 is the price of a commodity, one demand is there. When price reduces from 50 to 40, demand automatically increases from 1 to 2. 40 to 30, it rises from 2 to 3 and so on. Means there is a what? Again, inverse relationship is there between price and quantity demanded. When we plot these demand schedule on a graph paper, we are going to receive one graph that is called as what? We have seen demand schedule and now we'll have to consider. We have seen demand schedule and now we'll have to consider the demand curve. As per the schedule, when the price comes down, demand for the commodity X increases. In a demand curve, we have taken x-axis and y-axis. On x-axis, we have taken quantity demanded, that should be in kilograms, whereas on y-axis, that is the vertical line, which denotes, we have taken here price in what? Rupees. Now, whenever there is a rupees 50 is the price, consumer is going to demand 1 kg. Here is the point. Another, when the price comes from 50 to 40, here is the point, demand increases, price decreases. Again, when from 40 to 30 price comes, demand increases from 2 to 3, it becomes here. When we does in this manner and when we can join these dots, we are going to receive whatever we are getting is called DD curve. DD is a demand curve. What is that? DD is demand curve. Now, this is a straight line. You can draw the curve too. There is no problem. This is known as demand curve. It is to be plotted on this graph. Secondly, after the demand curve, we'll have to write the explanation of the demand curve. There are Next, in the law of demand, there are so many assumptions are there. What are the assumptions of the law of demand? I'm not going to give in detail. I'm going to explain only the points. First assumption is that there is a constant level of income. That is, the income should not be changed. It should remain constant. That is the first assumption, that your income should be same whenever we are going to calculate your law. Because if the income rises, the people, even though having the more and more price of the commodity, is going to buy more of it because his income rises. Another is, there should not be change in the size of what population. If the population is increasing one, automatically demand will rises. Because the population rises, demand for the commodity will also automatically increases. Thirdly, the prices of substitutes goods remain constant. If the price of the substitute goods comes down than that of your product, then automatically people, consumers may divert their demand from your product to that product. It means what happened? The These are to be considered, are to be constant. That is the price of substitute. That should also be what? That should be a constant substitute, isn't it? Another is the prices of complementary goods. That should not be change one. It should also remain constant. No exceptions should be there for the prices of future prices of the product. It means that if it is assumed that the price of the commodity are going to be raised in future, automatically people are going to demand today, even though the price of the commodity is more, and they are going to store in our godown or in our house. For example, generally in India, during the Diwali, there is a rise in the price of sugar, oil. That in that case, what happened? The people are going to buy before Diwali and they are going to store in the house, isn't it? Therefore, the exception there should not be any expectations for rise in the price. There should not be change in the most important, that is tastes, habits, preferences of the consumers. Even you can add here, that is fashions. Because if the fashion changes, people are going to demand that product, and that old product is not going to demand it. Taste is also most important. If suppose the people are going to start eating vegetarian than that of the non-veg, then automatically the demand for veg product will more and demand for non-veg product will be less. Generally, in the case of the Shravan Bhadrapad, it is there. The demand for mutton and all is reduced, even though the prices are less. It means that the preferences, there should not be any change in the taste, habit, fashion, preferences, etc. for the product, and no change in the taxation policy. That is also important cost. All these should be remain constant, then your law will be perfect. Now, what are the exceptions to the law? Exceptions to the law are first, Giffen paradox. I'm going to write here Giffen paradox. What do you mean by Giffen's paradox? That is inferior goods, or we can say low quality goods. These are the exceptions. Means what do you mean by exception? Even though the price reduces, demand cannot be increases for this. Whenever the price of, we can say, the lemon, 10 rupees 2 lemons and 5 rupees 10 lemons. Obviously, as per the law, we should demand 4 rupees 5 10 lemons. But the quality of that particular product is very low. That's why people are not going to buy rupees 5 10 lemons. They are going to buy only what the having 10 rupees 2 lemons. It means that lower the quality, people are not going to buy. That is called Giffen paradox. That is exception. Prestige goods. What do you mean by prestige goods? That you can say here status symbol. Now people are going to buy the real diamond necklace, real diamond ring, etc. Why? Because the prices of that product is very high. What is our law of demand says? More the price, less will demand. But whenever there is a prestigious goods are there, people are going to buy that good to show their status symbol. We can say it is a status symbol. And if the prices, it will not be happen. But suppose the prices of the real diamond comes down and the prices of American diamonds goes up, automatically people will buy more of American than that of the real diamond. That is called as what? Status symbol. Then the speculation. That is, if suppose just I have explained the prices of the products are going to increase in future, then people are going to buy today itself only. That is called speculation. Even though today's prices are high, people are going to buy today itself. Then price illusion is there. That is high price, that is branched balanced goods demanded more. That is price illusion. We can say in other words that uh, you know the word properly, that is branded products. Am I right? Nowadays, people are not interested in purchasing the any other product. They are interested to buy the branded product because the quality of the branded product is good, but the prices of that product is also very high. Even though it is high, we are going to buy more of it. Then the ignorance. Ignorance about what? Ignorance about price. There are so many customers, they are least bothered regarding the price of the product. They are going to think that more the price means the product is good and I'm going to buy of that product itself only and not any other cases. Then habitual goods, that is tobacco, cigarette, tea, coffee. Even though it is available at more and more price, people are going to consume that product itself only because this is a what habits of them, and that's why these are the exceptions to the law of demand. Therefore, if you need more explanations, please comment and contact me. I will do you a special lecture for this. And therefore, whenever we are going to consider the law of demand, it should be given first statement, then your schedule, then explanation of the schedule, then graph, explanation of the graph of the demand curve, then you have to give assumptions, then you have to give exceptions. This is most important part of the law of demand. Afterwards, we are going to consider after law of demand, that is the variation in demand. Now, what is the variation in demand? Variation in demand is of two types. Variation in demand is of two types. One, expansion of demand, and another, contraction of demand. Now, what is variation in demand? When the demand for the commodity falls or rises due to change in price alone and other factors remain constant, it is called as variation in demand. That we have seen. All other factors remains constant and only the change in the price happens. That is called the variation in demand. Now, please see the example of this. This is our y-axis, as you know it very well. This is our x-axis. On a x-axis, we are writing the quantity, whereas on the y-axis, we were writing price in rupees. Okay, and quantity in what? Kgs. You know it very well. The demand curve is there. This is our demand curve is there. At a price P, demand is this one, Q. OP is the price, OQ is the demand. Now please see here very carefully. And this is your point. When the price goes up from OP to OP1, the demand will automatically comes down. That is from OQ to OQ1. When the price goes from OP to OP1, demand comes down, reduces from OQ to OQ1. Similarly, when price reduces from OP to OP2, then when price reduces, demand is going to be increased from OQ to OQ2. Now this is A is there, original. When it goes to the B, that is A to B will be called as a contraction of demand. A to B is called as a contraction of demand. Whereas we can see here C, A to C will be called as your expansion of demand. It is also called as extension of demand. This is called variation in demand because what happened? All other factors remains constant. Only what there is a changes. just like as a law of demand. And that's why whenever we are going to say in case of law of demand, when the price goes up, demand contracts. And when the price comes down, demand expands. Don't say there increases or decreases, because other factors, they are going to be remain constant, and only due to the variation in the prices when there is a fluctuation in the demand, and that is called as a expansion or contraction of a demand, which is denoted on the same demand curve, isn't it? Next, we are going to consider after variation of demand, changes in demand that we have to consider. In case of changes in demand, here there are two changes in demand is there, just like as variation in demand. Is it right? Another is changes in demand. Changes in demand is having two types, that is increase in demand and decrease in demand. Now, what is increase in demand? Price remains constant, but due to changes in other factors, demand varies or changes. Demand curve shifts toward the right from original demand curve. Now here, the as usual y-axis is there and x-axis is there. Price is on a y-axis, whereas quantity on a x-axis is there. Here the price P is constant. It never changes. If you can draw a demand curve here, this is your DD is the demand curve, then OP is the price, OQ is the quantity demanded. When price remains constant, but the other factors changes here, and due to other factors changes, what happened? Demand increases. Demand curve moves to the right hand side from the original demand curve, that is D1, D1. This is called extension and it comes Q1. This is called increase in demand. This is known as what? Increase in demand. DD curve is the original demand curve which shifts to the right hand side. That is called as what? Increase. Here the price remains constant. It never changes, but the other factor changes. The change in the income, change in price, change in your what we can say substitute product, or change in habit, fashion, whatever may be the reason, whatever we have seen in case of assumption, it is called increase in demand. Whenever there is a decrease in demand, again we are going to take, this is our y-axis, this is our x-axis. In case of decrease in demand, demand curve shifts to the what? Left hand side from the original demand curve. As usual, we are taking on a x-axis quantity of the product, and here on a y-axis price in rupees. Suppose this is our original demand curve, this is our original demand curve is there, and when due to the reduction in the income or change in fashion, etc., demand, what happens? Decreases. This is your original is the P, price is there, quantity demanded is Q. When it reduces, price remains constant. This is called OQ2. It is there, and this is known as what? Decrease in demand. Decrease in demand. This is known as decrease in demand. In short, we can say here in case of increase and decrease in demand, price remains constant. Keep in mind, it never changes. But due to the changes in the other factors that we have seen in the assumptions, when there is a price constant and other factor changes, the demand curve shifts from the original demand curve DD to right hand side, that goes increase in the demand. It is D1. D1 is there. It increases from OQ to OQ1. Whereas here decrease, price remains constant, but the quantity demanded reduces due to changes in the other factors. The demand curve shifts to the left hand side below the original demand curve. Original demand curve is DD. It comes D2, D2. This is called the changes in demand, means variation in demand. We have to keep in mind that there is when other factors remains constant, it is only due to the change in the price, demand varies. It is called increase, and it is called extension and contraction of demand. Whereas here when changes in demand is there, price remains constant and other factor changes, it is called increase or decrease in demand. If you like, as per the convenience of the uh, demand of the students, I have given the law of demand, and next will be our session will be for elasticity of demand is there, that will be seen in the next session. Even if you are having any curiosity, any difficulties, please make the comment. I will give the answer for that. And if you like, please make the like, share, and subscribe for more videos. Please put the icon bell. You will get updations of the new videos to this channel. Thanking you.